Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this flaskup.com Mists of Pandaria raiding guide. And in this video we're going to be taking a look at the heroic mode version of the Sha of Pride in the Siege of Orgrimmar raid. Now in order to complete this fight, you're going to want to bring 2 tanks, 2 healers, and then the remaining a mixture of both melee and ranged DPS. Now since this is a heroic mode encounter, you should assume that any abilities that are carried over from normal mode will deal significantly more damage, and we are only going to be taking a look at the new heroic mode abilities or any normal mode abilities that have changed in this guide. Now thankfully this fight isn't overly similar to the normal mode, but it's still got a lot of similar elements. There's probably a few new abilities that you have to deal with, and all in all it is kind of a very straightforward fight. Now you will still have your pride on you, a nice little pride bar at the top of your screen or bottom of your screen depending on your UI, just like in the normal mode version of this fight, and any abilities that used to be there revolving around the pride would have been pulled over into the heroic mode fight, so you do need to keep that in mind. There are 2 new abilities however that you will need to take care of in order to kill this fight and gain epic loots and shiny achievements. His first new ability is called Banishment, and this will cause the Sha of Pride to banish a random player into a different realm, or the Corrupted Sha realm as it's called, and that player that gets banished will leave behind a copy of themselves in the normal realm. Now the player will be banished until this copy has been killed off and defeated, 100% of health, dead. And while the player is in the Sha realm, they will move 50% faster, and they will also constantly run forward. They won't be able to control if they're walking, running, or any kind of moving like that. All you can control is whether you're moving left or right, or in circles if you use your mouse and are a proper gamer. While in this realm, there are several different things you need to be aware of. Mostly there are little kind of Sha creatures that are running around at the same time as you, and if you get hit by any of these Sha creatures, you will instantly get killed. So you need to keep that in mind. And thankfully, the beneficial part of this realm is that there are these little orb of lights dotted around, and if you were to run into one of these orb of lights, then it will heal you up for 50% of your maximum health, and also weaken the image of yourself that is left behind in the normal realm, and each time you run into an orb, the mirror image will take 25% increased damage, and this is a stacking debuff, so you want to try and run into these as much as you possibly can in order to help out people killing off the mirror image of yourselves. Now when you're in the corrupted realm, obviously the main way you need to complete this is by keeping yourself alive, and it's fairly simple really. All you need to kind of do is run straight forward, take the first left, and then turn left again instantly, and then by that time you should have collected 2 or 3 orbs, and then if you just kind of run around in a little bit of a circle, by that time the mirror image of yourself should be defeated and you should be moving back to the normal realm without any issues at all. It's probably best if you do keep an eye on the video part of this guide for that bit there, as it will show you what I mean by that, as I've probably not explained it too greatly. Now, something that you might have noticed that we didn't do in the normal mode is that during the fight we are spread out at all times, and we're not stacked up at all, except from the people that do get the Gift of the Titans buff. And as you can see, there is a marking point for where these people are going to stack, but we don't stack up mainly because of an ability that's new to the heroic mode version called Unstable Corruption. Now, you might have seen these little white rifts spawning around the room, and players running into them in order to close the rifts and get rid of them, and that's kind of pretty much what you need to do with them. Throughout the fight, the Sha of Pride will open these rifts, I think it's every 8 seconds, and then each rift will fire a bolt of corruption at a random player's location. Location being the key word there, and anyone that does get hit by this bolt will take a high amount of shadow damage and also gain 5 pride. Now, what you need to do is you need to control these rifts as well as you possibly can, and you need to close them by walking over them, standing on them for a split second, and then just walking away. When you do close a rift, You will take a moderate amount of shadow damage, and you will also gain 5 pride, so you do need to keep that in mind. Now when you do close a rift, a debuff will be placed on you called Weakened Resolve, and this will persist for 1 minute, and it will cause you to become unable to close any more rifts for that duration. Now this may sound like a pain in the backside, but it isn't really if you think about it, because there's going to be 10 people in your raid, and there's going to be a rift spawning every 8 seconds. So that's a rotation of 80 seconds there if you get all 10 players to actually do the soaking, and people's debuffs are going to start dropping off when the final 2 people have actually soaked. So then you should be able to control the rifts as well as you possibly can, and only have them up for a short period of time, as it can cause issues, especially if people do get hit by the bolts of corruption and gain additional pride. There isn't really any set kind of rotation for closing the rifts, as some may be closer to the tanks or to the melee as opposed to the ranged, so you need to kind of use your brains and make a conscious decision as to whether you can close a rift or not. It's also best to make sure you are communicating with your raid, letting people know if you're going to close a rift or not, because if 2 of you are going to run towards one in order to close it, and only 1 person does end up closing it, then it's kind of wasted time really, when 1 person could have been standing there, you know, firing lasers or arrows or whatever you do in this game at the boss, and the other person could have just moved. So you do need to obviously make sure there is that element of communication and logical thinking when it does come to closing them. Now, just like in the normal mode version of the fight, when you hit 30%, the Sha of Pride will kill off Norishen, and your pride meter will get reset. So it's kind of a blessing in disguise really. So what you can do is, you know, keep an eye on the boss's health, and if you want to, you can close rifts if your pride is too high, as you know it's going to get reset. Now when your pride does get reset and Norishen does die, the fight will continue as normal, as in people will still get banished and the rifts will keep on spawning, so you do need to keep that in mind. You should also keep in mind that he will constantly deal that massive raid-wide damage, which will also give you more pride on top of what you're already gaining. So you need to make sure you are managing your pride well, not taking unnecessary damage, especially from the corruption bolts that target your location. Please move away from these, as it's frustrating if you don't. And just in general, be aware of what's going on around you. What you can do when the Sha reaches about 10% remaining health is you can kind of ignore the mechanics and just run around like idiots dodging stuff and just continue to zerg the boss. Just like in normal mode, we also recommend that you save Bloodlust, Time Warp or Heroism for this section of the fight, the remaining 30%. So that's going to do it for this Mists of Pandaria raiding guide. If you are interested in any of our other raiding guides, then please do feel free to click on any of the annotations that are on screen now. Or if you'd like to view a written version for this guide or any of our other guides, then please do head on over to flaskup.com or click on the link in the video description below. As always, thank you for watching, and if you are interested in future Mists of Pandaria raiding guides, then please do feel free to subscribe to the channel.